Hello there, welcome back to your favorite half Japanese, half Pakistani. Last time we talked about me being Hafu, having general experience in Pakistan and Japan, but today we are specifically talking about my experience as a Japanese in Pakistan. So let's start. I was brought to Pakistan at the age of 3 and I lived with my father's family, like in a joint family system. And they were really overprotective of me because they knew I was Japanese, so I would be discriminated against potentially in the future. So this characteristic of my family was really important because it reduced the negative interaction which I would have had if I was let out unsupervised. And like most of my life until the age of 10, I wasn't even let out of the house because we lived in a place that I don't know how to translate in English. You call it a mahalla, like a community, where it's not really pleasant to go outside that much because you'll have bad interactions, especially at night. So my initial interactions were all in school. So I'll be starting with my kindergarten. As I said in the last video, children don't really have the awareness and consciousness to differentiate between a foreigner and themselves. So in kindergarten, I actually never had any strange or unusual interactions or experiences. Other than that, because I was really round and like my cheeks were red and I was really pale, so these older girls from, I don't know, middle school or high school, so they'll look at me and they'll chase after me so they could like grab my cheek and just pull it really hard. And it was really painful and annoying, and so I complained about it to someone and they finally were like, okay, we'll like supervise this activity of girls coming towards this little child. Well, it's more of a ara and shota combination, if you know what I mean. And for the teachers in kindergarten, they actually knew I was different, but they didn't know exactly why I was different. Because one of the reasons was that I actually used my Pakistani name in school, in the documents, until the first grade when I entered elementary school, because the Japanese embassy was like, no, you don't use Pakistani name, you use Japanese name because you officially have Japanese name. So the changes actually happened in the first year of elementary school, and the changes were that teachers were really nice to me. I mean, teachers were nice to me back then also, but teachers, knowing that I was foreigner and Japanese, they took more care of me so I wouldn't be like felt out of place or something. And there's one teacher I clearly remember till this day. She was like really big, as in, I don't want to be offensive, but you know, really big for any standard. And she was scary, not just because how she looked, but how she acted. Because if she stared at you, she would stare at your soul and her expression would be twisted. And I mean, from that, the kid would be scared. And when she screamed at you, she was loud as F. But luckily for me, she loved me like her own child. She was like, if you touch him or do anything to him, I'll break your both legs. Well, in the 4th and 5th grade, we had this one teacher who didn't really like me. And one time, I don't know, something happened like around lunchtime and I accidentally spilled the lunch of another kid. That kid started crying and went to the teacher. And she used to talk in this monotone, cold voice. And I still remember that verse. She was like, don't hang out with this kid because this is a bad kid. And she always singled me out. I don't know why. I never did anything wrong at that point. In middle school and high school, it's a different story. While for the student side of things, again, I was accepted quickly. I never had much issues. So things changed a little bit when I got to middle school because I had changed my house and moved to an army place. We call it like a cantonment where all the army people live. My family isn't from army, but we had a residential place there. Also in middle school, because we were all going through puberty, so things got a little bit heated up, hormonal changes, and you become a little horny, a little feisty. And because of that, I had many fights in the school. And then in those fights, the derogatory words or slangs that were used were ethnically targeted towards me. For example, because I was chubby or overweight, I was called a Japanese cow, like Japani bands. You know, Pakistani people like to use curses that are more targeted towards your mother and your sister. I wouldn't say they were aware of being racist because at that age, you would do this kind of stuff. you'll fight and curse and have this pride. I mean, I said things changed in middle school, but it didn't change as much as in high school. Because I changed my class because you have to choose like subjects like business class, as in like you have to learn business studies and economics and stuff, while the other class learns about sciences, chemistry, biology and stuff. So the classmates around me changed because for them I was a foreigner, something they haven't encountered before, because the past classmate had been with me for like, I don't know, 7 years or something. When they were like, oh, what should we call you? And I didn't even tell them what to call me, and they were like, oh, I'll call you Sato because that's your first name, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So because of the new environment and awareness of different countries at that stage of life, now is where the stereotypes begin. You know, about Pak Chin Dosti and stuff. So people ended up thinking I'm Chinese. They stereotyped that I ate everything, like insects, dogs, I don't know, whatever comes to mind. And they try to imitate me by doing this, like, you know, you have small eyes, so I'll do this as like making your eyes narrower. But to be honest, I don't really have the Asian eyes. If you come across East Asians, you'll see their eyelid is like single eyelid, and it's like this skin is on top of this bone. I don't know how to describe it. It's probably got a biological name, but yeah. And as I've already talked about it, that I had a lot of fights and I had some mutual cursing contests with people in middle school. But until high school, I had mellowed out a little bit and I wasn't as feisty. I never used to be popular or anything, especially because I was overweight, not athletic, and nerdy. So people knew about me as the kid who's Japanese, but they never actually interacted with me. Again, it's not singling out, it's just my own choice to not have many friends. So it's kind of hard to explain, but our school wasn't co-education, but co-education at the same time. So until kindergarten till 3rd year, you are with female students, but after that you are separated basically, and there is like a gate. So at one side there would be boys and the other side there would be girls. So we never had interaction with the girls side, and the only interaction we had with the girls was because of our subjects. So one of the girls or two of the girls wanted to join the business class, and there weren't enough female students to start a business class, so they actually put them in our class instead. I don't know, and one of the girls just did something, I don't understand what was her motives or anything, and she started a fight between one of my really good friends and me through social media. And this girl used my identity as a Japanese to manipulate the boys around. I don't know how, but something like that. So this group of boys kind of one day circled me and threatened me that they will beat me if I interacted with the girl. Because they were like, oh, you're Japanese, so you're trying to hit on that girl because you're different. I still don't understand the logic behind this. But, oh well. There have been, as I said, I have had experiences where I would be borderline bullied. But because I had like teachers, my family, and my friends, I wouldn't be as worse off. So because of that reason, I kind of had this trigger and actually left high school and started home tutoring instead. It wasn't just because of that issue, it was also because the educational system was kind of bad. Students weren't listening to teachers, they will just like leave the class and say, we don't care, we don't want to study. So the management was also changing over the years again and again and again and again. It wasn't stable at all. So I left in the end. Okay, also during the time I was home tutored, I lost a lot of weight and became like thin and had like a glow up, you could say. And when my classmates saw me on the exam day or somewhere they would meet me like randomly, one of the things that they would say me, oh, now you look like Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee. While occurrences outside of school would rarely happen because I was usually with my family inside the house. I'll just be on internet, watching cartoons, watching anime, keeping myself in my own world. So I didn't have many interactions, but there have been some. So for example, as I told, I lived in an army area, and because of that, if I had to travel outside or inside the area, the army sometimes would look at me. They were like, "Where's your card?" Even though I would be with my uncle or something. "Oh yeah, he has a card," because you have to have a I don't know, foreigner card thingy to live there. They would teach you kind of because they would be a little suspicious because it's army, of course. Well, also going to shops would be an issue as well. If I wanted to buy something, the shop assistant would always try to take benefit of me, thinking that I'm a foreigner. They were like, "Oh, this much is this," even though the price tag would say something like less. They would be like, "We just mistakenly put that tag there," because they thought I didn't know Urdu first of all, and I was a foreigner who didn't know about Pakistan. Well, one of the funniest stories I've had is when I was going to gym, and I used to regularly go to that gym. And one day it was raining and there was no one there, until 1 hour later a guy enters and looks at me, and I'm just doing my own exercises. I'm like, I don't care. I put my headphones in, I'm listening and going with the vibe. In the middle of my exercising, he comes up to me and it's like, oh, you look so determined and you are so consistent with your exercises. Could you teach my son if I bring him to this gym? And I was like, okay, I don't know. And he said to me, "Oh, I want to take a picture of you," so he would be motivated to meet me and train with me. And I was dumb. I was like, "Okay, sure, take a picture." And he took a picture of me and took one picture, like a selfie with me as well. Because time to time, it does happen that if you see a foreigner, Pakistan people would be like, "Oh, foreigner, let's take a picture." And I was like, okay, fair enough. And when I told my family about it, they were paranoid. They were like, "What did you do? Why did you do that? It could be anyone." And then I was like, "Oh, a pedophile." And I wasn't scared because I'd be like, I'll just knock him out if he comes to me again, because I'm in a gym. Actually, it was an army gym. I'll just tell it to the army and they'll just beat his ass. And we did tell to the army person that was on duty there about it. And it was like, "I'll check it out." But we never got a response about it. And in the end, we came to a conclusion thinking that that guy was from the army and he was just kind of supervising or spying on me because sometimes army is suspicious about foreigners. So yeah, that was an interesting experience for me. Well, coming to one of the most annoying things that I've come across is airport. Going to the airport is a mess, my god. Because those people who want to carry your luggage, I don't know what are they called in Urdu, but there's a specific word. And they just come to me and they're like, Chinese, Japanese, me carry your stuff. And I pretend I don't understand them. They firstly try with Urdu, then English, and then they just gave up because they don't speak any other language. And I'll just laugh and be like, Bakwani Hanjin this. And usually I use this act to fool people around at the airport, or people who are generally bugging me outside. All of this experience might come off as negative, but I don't intend to make it negative. It's just experiences as a Japanese person in Pakistan, isn't it? And you'll come across this if you're a foreigner. But as I said, because I had my family, I had my friends, I had teachers, I had support from all around, I was protected. And yeah, that was my experience as a Japanese in Pakistan. Anyways, this video became a little bit heavy, but if you want any other fun stuff, like some vlogging, some, I don't know, Q&A or anything, just put them in the comments below and I'll try to do it in the future. If you like this video, please do subscribe and hit the notification button, because I'm gonna probably release a video called Being Pakistani in Japan and you don't want to miss it. So please do hit the button. And for now, thank you for watching this video and I'll see you next time. Ja, mata ne.